Okay, Dad, a lot of turbulence in the new and used car markets. We have prices going up, prices going down, vehicles that aren't negotiable, vehicles that are negotiable. We have a lot of new data, both from Black Book and from TrueCar and others. And I thought we'd take some time to run through a new and used car market update. How does that sound?
It sounds like, since you're the director, I am 100% in on this.
All right, Dad, let's start on the new car side of things. TrueCar puts out a monthly industry report, and wow, the first thing that I saw in here, Dad, is their pretty chart that shows us folks are still paying over MSRP on new cars. What?
Yeah, but the percentage of folks that are paying over MSRP on new cars is going down. And the amount of dealerships that are asking for market adjustments is going down. And the reason for that is because inventories in some models and in some cases are starting to build up.
Now, big storylines on the new car side of things. Like you said, inventories are starting to, for some models, for some brands, and in some regions, increase. One thing that I love to look at, Dad, one of my favorite leading indicators of what's going to happen in the new car market, that would be fleet sales. Fleet sales, depending on who you asked, were up between 59 and 74% year over year. TrueCar's data shows a significant increase in the number of fleet vehicles sold for most manufacturers. This is a big storyline because, Dad, if you remember, a lot of automakers actually chose to stop making fleet vehicles because they are their least profitable vehicles. And now, amidst the chip shortage going away, the supply chain shortage is easing, we have manufacturers with a 60+% year over year increase in fleet sales. That is a huge green flag, I guess, for consumers to think that automakers are actually able to produce vehicles again.
Well, yes, obviously, if they can produce excess vehicles in order to satisfy their fleet purchasers, then they can produce vehicles to satisfy the consumer demand. Some of the brands like GM, I mean, their fleet sales were up over 30,000 in the month of January compared to January of last year. Some, there were minimal increases. Some brands that you wouldn't expect to make any lease sales because there's a shortage of their vehicles, like Honda, for instance, guess what? They increased their fleet sales dramatically as well. So it indicates to me that there's more capability of producing cars than there had been, and that rather than just satisfy consumer demand, they're spending a lot of time satisfying fleet demand.
CarEdge.com/finance pops. You can go there and do what?
You can finance, refinance, save money, and it only takes seconds to do.
All right, go take a peek. Don't go to the dealer without getting a pre-approval. We're here to help. Now, the unfortunate reality is average transaction prices in January continued to trickle up year over year. So month over month, we saw average transaction prices come down, which is great. We need to see more of that. There was a slight decline, but year over year, average transaction prices across the board continue to increase. So as we see fleet sales increase, as we see inventories on dealers' lots increase, as we see inventories sitting for longer and longer periods of time, we expect average transaction prices to go down. The storyline that you and I have been talking about for a while now, Dad, is manufacturers making the intentional decision to stop making their entry-level options and simply focus on making their more profitable, higher trim options. However, again, if we're seeing fleet sales production, that means that the capacity and the capability, they are there to produce those lower-end models, and eventually we should see that trickle down into average transaction prices and watch those fall over the course of the year. And it also just makes sense, Dad, as interest rates continue to go up. The latest Cox Automotive data had the average new car auto loan almost at 8.5%. for January, and the used car auto loan almost 13%, Dad, on your APR. You can't mix that and increasing average transaction prices. You're ultimately going to price folks entirely out of the market.
Oh, absolutely. And I think this is going to force the hand of manufacturers to produce a few more of the lesser expensive vehicles, if they have any, and B, and more importantly, is to increase the size of the incentives that they will offer to the consumer in order to get them to buy the cars. So I would expect moving forward, and when I say moving forward, I realize that January and February are traditionally the two slowest months in the retail automotive space. So I would think as inventories continue to grow, even if they only grow slightly in January and February, once we hit March, spring selling season, that I think that we will see incentives go up. And I've also seen and read in any number of cases, and I can say in my own personal case, income tax refunds, if there is a refund, aren't going to be as big this year as they were last year. I can tell you that the amount that I owe the government went up significantly last year over the previous year. So I know as a consumer, knowing that I have to write the government a relatively large check in April means that I'm going to watch very closely what my discretionary income will be over the next few months so that I can afford to stroke that damn check to Uncle Sam.
Sounds like you're taking out a little bit of frustration with how you set up your deductions this year, Pops, but that's okay. We'll work on that. No, I'm just kidding. So what you just brought up, though, is impacting, let's switch gears, let's talk about the used car market. So we have data from our friends at Black Book, and it's starting to show that dealers are bringing on more, I'll say, cheaper vehicles. The data from Black Book shows that depreciation is less rapid amongst 8 to 16-year-old vehicles. So those would be your cheaper vehicles. And that's because that market, and go watch Car Questions Answered with Brandon, that market is going to be the market that experiences the most pop as a result of tax refunds. That being said, Dad, we do have in our Instagram DMs, we appreciate it when dealers, folks in the industry alike, when you reach out to us. Hey, Zach, long time no talk. Just want to give you some real-time insight on the wholesale car market, used car market in California. Things are really heating up in the auctions the last 4 weeks. Prices are rebounding and going up really fast. MMR is going up and the volume is really low and declining week over week. Not sure when this repo issue is going to hit, but 80% of the cars are in very poor condition anyway. Prime units are bringing and will bring all the money in the next few months, just a heads up. So this is from a dealer out in California, Southern California. You can't be too surprised to hear this, Dad. We've been talking about crappy units going across the auction floor for a long time now, the auction lane.
Yes, and I think it also points out that some regions are less impacted than other regions. Southern California, probably all of California, I mean, from just the comments I read on our videos, we haven't seen the same type of decreases in pricing in California as we have in other parts of the country. I think if you're on the West Coast, you're going to continue to pay more. You're going to see probably a spike in some retail prices. If you're in the Midwest or the East Coast, I think you might see a slight drop in wholesale values and in retail values. So it really depends on where you are. And I know people will say, oh, well, they're trying to play all parts, but we're trying to be realistic. It's a very regionalized situation, and not all regions are created equal.
It's regionalized, and also it's the age of the unit and the quality of the vehicle. Again, if it's an 8 to 16-year-old vehicle and it's in good condition, that thing is going to be incredibly valuable. If it's a newer, more rapidly depreciating vehicle, that's not, I mean, that's going to obviously draw less at the auction. And so ultimately, Dad, I think one of the big takeaways for me right now is if I'm in the market to trade in my 2008, whatever it is, it's going to be worth more over the next couple of weeks here than it will be post-spring selling season, because that's when those are going to depreciate again. So there's a little opportunity. There's a little window of time here, like I think about a month.
Yes.
Where if I've got a 2012 or older vehicle, I should be, and I'm thinking about getting rid of it, now's the time to go to CarEdge.com/sell, see what the local dealers in your area are offering. Talk to your local dealers, see what they'll pay for. Because those are what are appreciating or showing more value at the wholesale auctions right now. There's a little window in time to take advantage of that.
Yeah, maybe it's time to take a ride out to California and sell it there.
Yeah, it could end up like you're saying. You might be right.
Yeah. Las Vegas is probably another market where used car values are probably spiking and going up as opposed to going down. You and I both know that Las Vegas is beautiful this time of year.
Let us know in the comments down below what you make of all this. We'll be back with more updates as the data breaks. Pops, thanks for your time as always.
Thank you, Handsome. I appreciate it.